We often think of a high IQ as this superpower, right? Something that just makes life easier. But what if that's not really the whole story? Today, we're going to peel back the curtain on the psychology of very high intelligence and go way beyond the stereotypes to see how it can fundamentally change a person's entire experience of the world. And this right here, this idea, is the key to everything we're talking about today. It's not just about being great at tests or solving trippy puzzles. It's about a completely different way of thinking, of feeling, of processing everything around you. And that affects everything, from your relationships to a simple everyday chat. And that leads us straight into something we can call the genius paradox. There's this massive gap between what we think high intelligence is like and the actual day-to-day psychological reality for the people who live with it. Okay, so this really flips our whole assumption on its head. The myth is that being super smart just streamlines everything, that you can basically think your way out of any jam. But the reality? Well, the psychology shows it often does the complete opposite. It makes life and the world feel, well, infinitely more complex. So how does all that complexity actually show up? Well, let's start by looking at the internal experience, what it actually feels like to have a mind that is just constantly on. And I mean constantly. The first pattern is this idea of constant mental stimulation. And look, this isn't just about being a deep thinker every now and then. For these folks, it is the default setting. It's their normal. This quote just nails it, doesn't it? I mean, imagine not having an off switch for your thoughts. A lot of us have those moments of quiet, of just mental emptiness. But for someone with the mind wired like this, it's always active, always churning, always processing. So the crucial thing to get here is that it's this nonstop flow. The brain is instinctively analyzing everything it comes across, hunting for hidden connections, and running through endless what-if scenarios. It's really less of a tool you decide to use, and more like an engine that's just always running in the background. So, if that's what's happening on the inside, how does that affect the outside world? The social world. Let's move on, because this is where that feeling of complexity really starts to hit home in daily life. And that brings us to our second pattern, which is a pretty common one, a real difficulty in relating to other people. But it's so important that we understand where this actually comes from, because it's so often misunderstood. And this is the key. The assumption is usually, oh, they just lack social skills. But the reality is way more nuanced. The challenge often comes from a basic difference in how they process information and conversation. It's not about social inability, it's about a mismatch in their cognitive wiring. This helps us kind of see what that mismatch looks like. A typical conversation, it feels pretty linear. It moves from point A to point B, usually on the surface. But for a highly intelligent person, that can feel almost painfully shallow. Their mind is already processing at a totally different speed, seeing all the patterns underneath, and they want to dive deeper. And that can create this real sense of distance, even when they're surrounded by people. So what is it that fuels this constant mental engine? Well, that leads us right to our third pattern, an incredibly powerful, wide-ranging curiosity about, well, pretty much everything. And this isn't about, studying for a test or learning a new skill for your job. This is something psychologists call intrinsic curiosity. It's this deep, natural urge to understand why things are the way they are, just because the question is there. It's the engine that feeds that constant mental stimulation we were just talking about. And it becomes this lifelong habit of taking systems apart in their mind, exploring ideas, not for any reward, but just for the pure satisfaction of knowing. So let's look at how this incredibly powerful analytical mind gets used, not just on the outside world, but when it gets turned inward, on the self. The fourth pattern we see is this intense self-reflection. I mean, when you have a mind that's built to analyze, it's only a matter of time before you turn that powerful lens inward, right onto yourself. Now, this process can lead to incredible self-awareness, for sure. But, and this is a big but, it has a serious downside. The same mind that's so brilliant at analyzing systems can get totally stuck analyzing itself, which can lead to these endless cycles of overthinking and being way too self-critical. So when you combine that mind that's always on with that intense self-analysis, you get our fifth and final pattern. And this one really ties everything together, a profound sensitivity to the world's complexity. This idea is so central to the whole experience. Think about it. While most of us are looking for simple, clear answers, A highly intelligent person often sees dozens of layers of nuance, all the exceptions, all the other possible ways to interpret any given situation. And because of that, easy, black and white certainty becomes almost impossible to find.
So after looking at all these patterns, we are left with a pretty big question. Is having a mind like this purely an advantage, or is it also a pretty significant challenge?
So when you put it all together, we've seen these 5 core patterns, right? The mind that's always on, never stops processing. The social mismatch that comes from a different cognitive speed. That insatiable curiosity driving it all. The intense self-analysis. And finally, a deep sensitivity to complexity. I mean, all of this together paints a very, very different picture of what high intelligence is really like. And that's really the big takeaway here. It completely reframes how we should think about it. A high IQ doesn't just erase life's problems. In a lot of ways, it adds whole new layers of psychological complexity right on top of them. Which brings us to this final question to think about. When you weigh the incredible ability to solve difficult problems against the burden of seeing the world in all its overwhelming complexity, what's the final call? Is it an advantage, a challenge, or maybe it's just both, all at the same time?